Now let's talk about the assumptions of the input-output model. The first assumption is that we assume input is always available without constraints in supply. So what it means is if there's a particular demand on some products, we assume there's no problem in producing them to meet the demand. This may not be the case in reality because a lot of times, let's say, there is a limit on the water or energy use or the change of prices that may affect the supply, etc. In input-output models, we don't assume any of these will happen. Basically, if you want something, the market wants something, they know that such demand will be met. The second assumption we have here is a constant return to scale. The required input can be put in relative terms as ratios, as we did when transforming the transaction table into the standard A matrix. And we assume that relationship is kind of linear relationship will continue. If the input to a, let's say, an orange juice factory from the agriculture sector is 0.12, if the total output increases by 100 million, then there should be an additional purchase of $12 million of agricultural products. If the increase in total output is, let's say, $100, then it should be an additional purchase of $12 of oranges. So the relationship is assumed to be always linear. The third assumption about input-output model is a kind of fixed commodity input structure. So the fixed commodity input structure is similar to constant returns to scale, but the ratio of inputs is assumed to remain the same as it was during the observed study period, irrespective of changes in price of some items. Nevertheless, in the real world, let's say if the price of furniture from China becomes so attractive, then a manager of hotel in the US may switch to purchases from China instead of those from a local manufacturing industry in Virginia. So if the price of beef increases for some reason, you may find fewer beef dishes at restaurants. Increasing prices would not cause a huge technical problem for the input-output models if the change of prices of goods and services are equally distributed across society. The fourth assumption about input-output model is homogeneous sector output. So it means that if a sector produces more than one commodity, the proportion of such multiple commodities productions will remain the same as in the study period. So for example, if an auto industry in a region produces more than one model of cars, meaning different commodities, then the input-output table recorded industry by commodities, the relative portion of commodities, let's say small cars, mid-sized cars, large cars, etc., will not assume to change even when, let's say, the gasoline prices increase later. In general, relatively small changes to the economy in question would pose less of a problem, and changes to relatively larger economic region would create fewer problems in the impact analysis using the IO framework. But I want you to be aware of the assumptions we have, because a lot of times not all of our assumptions will exist, are valid in your study. So make sure you're aware of that.